this week's Carp Shed. Coming to you now on a Wednesday, just sort of change the days, gives us a bit more time to come back from the bank on a Monday and get something really good out to you. So as I say, we're going to go through something, we know we're in the DIY specials, but what we're going to do is very quickly go through sort of summer special, something I wanted to do quickly to show you how to use it very effectively and sort of very safely, and that's surface setups. So next to me is my other faithful surface setup. What you got here, very balanced piece of kit. As I say, you can hold it in one finger, really balanced. You're not looking to sort of whack it out miles and miles, put it on a rest and leave it there. You know, you're holding this all day long, and as you can see there, absolutely perfectly balanced. Really small sort of bait runner style reel, and a light 2.5 pound test curve rod. That's the sort of hardware side of it. Basically, because as I said, you don't need big heavy things to chuck it all out with, and because you're holding it all day, whether you just be standing around looking for it or whether you're trekking around looking for the fish, you need it to be light and balanced, and that's sort of the hardware side of it. Moving on, so on the reel I got sort of 10 pound line, because yet again you don't need anything massively heavy. It's a hit and hold sort of situation, so you're not wanging out, you're not pulling it through weeds a lot. I said 10 pounds generally enough. And say I do on occasion, I've got 12 pound on a spare spool, just in case I am fishing over towards weed or anything at all like that, where they could get themselves caught up. I always want something that's going to be strong enough for the tool, for the task. Moving down then, and it says a 2.5 pound rod, really nice and light, lots of through action, lots of sort of suppleness in the rod, because of the fact obviously you're using light gear, you're using 10 pound lines, you're using 8 pound hook links. You need to take up the sort of the pressure of the fish in the rod, and also obviously in the length of the mono that we'll go through now. So working your way down, and I say, get that over there. There we are. Right, I'll put some pictures on because I don't know if you're able to see it. There's the very basic setup of it for you. So what I've got there is a little bead up the line, then my surface controller, and then another bead. All that does obviously is it stops everything pulling in inside itself and sort of fishing unsafely. It sort of protects all of your sort of swivels, your knots, etc, etc. And obviously what that allows you to do is set that depth so that when you're casting with the full length of the tail. And then on the end of that then, very small, size 11, sort of uni style swivel with a ring on the end. And yeah, again, what that does is keep it small, keep it light, because obviously you're trying to cast this out with a small float. I generally use a 10 gram float. I say 5 or 10 grams, but 10 grams generally does 99.9% of my fishing for me. It's got enough weight to cast out there, so it's got enough weight to sort of hook the fish. And if it is closer in, then obviously all I do is just flick it out. But I say you can go into 5s, and I said the weights actually unscrew on these ones, so you can actually change the weights on the bases, so you don't have to change the whole float setup. Moving down then to my hook link. Generally 5 or 6 feet of hook link. I generally aim for 6. I just put the bait on the floor and wind it up to my head basically, but you won't be able to see that. That's a floating sort of zig stroke floater line. You want it to float obviously because you want it to lay along the surface layers, so the fish can't really see it all looped underneath the water. And then as I move down onto the hook end, very small, size 10 hook, absolutely ridiculously small, but yet again you want that hook to do its job, which is to hook the fish obviously and hold the fish. So a nice strong size 10 hook. I use the boilie style hook from Varlis, nice and strong, but small enough to be well protected. And then what I do is you can use pellets, but I mean the two most sort of used baits for me really is trim down pop up, which you'll be able to see there. It matches the sort of style of the mixer, which I'll go through in a second I'm putting out. And all I do with that, Palomar knot it on, and then feed the tag end back through the eye, tie a sort of loop in it like you would for a normal boilie, so you can actually see the angle. There we are. Look at the way that sits. So I mean in the surface layers, because that's popped up, that hook is just poised to absolutely snag you every single time. So I said the two most important baits really in my sort of surface fishing, chum mixers, but what I tend to use is the cat biscuits, because the cat biscuits are loads of different shapes, different sizes, and from sort of checking it out, and obviously people, big names have agreed with this, they sort of go for the different shapes, and I think there's just better nutrition really in the sort of the cheaper cat biscuits than they are in the cheaper chum dog biscuits, personal preference, but I don't just chuck them out. I'll glug them in a bit of salmon oil or a bit of chili oil. Good thing with chili oil, guys, is it actually keeps the ducks off. The duck will have 1 or 2 bites of a chili floater, and then they'll be out of there, mate. They won't hang around for too much longer. So I mean, that will be my biggest tip, really, is soak them in something that maybe the duck life doesn't like, but the fish will still love. Chili, salmon oil, anything like that. I just don't know. They just don't seem to like it. Anything that's more than just a floater. And then the other one, most importantly, this is for you, Dame from Angling Gazette. Bread. It's absolutely devastating. John the fireman uses it to massive effect up the birch. It's just really, really underused. And the best thing with bread is, even better, strip back all your gear, fish your line all the way through to the hook, and squeeze a bit of bread on, free lining. There is nothing better than to catch. I haven't had massive success on surface gear, I'll be honest with you. In France, I've done really, really well on it. Sort of small chateau lakes, really, really good on them. But in the UK, not massively good. I've had some fish, don't get me wrong, but it's just a massive commodity. We don't get the weather often enough to really use it to great effect, but now this is why we brought the summer special. The weather is good. Let's get out there on the floater gear. So basically, light gear, well balanced. Get the fish feeding, guys. I have seen it and I have used it in a good effect. If there's 1 or 2 just picking around, just cast that one rod out and just see. They might not spook off. You might be the first bait to be taken. But generally, 99% of the time, you want to get them feeding. So get the mixers going. Sit on your hands. Resist the urge to chuck your rods in. Get them feeding so there's competition. And what you'll notice is 2 or 3 fish will start coming. And then you'll get 5 or 6 or 10 or 20. And then that's it then. You just cast right over the top of them. Reel it in so the actual controller goes past them. And obviously, because you've got 6 foot of tail, that controller goes way, way past them, out of the sort of feeding frenzy. A few more biscuits over the top to get them feeding around your bait. Bam, you're in. And yet again, the thing you've got to do is make sure that bait is taken. The number of times I've done it, and you say we've all done it, and there's nothing worse. You either strike a second too early or a second too late. Wait for the sort of movement in the line. That means that it's been sucked and pulled. Then maybe a twitch or a float. Then hit it. I mean, the good thing with it is, as soon as you've got a bite and you've missed it, get another pult of biscuit out. Keep them feeding again. They'll come straight back on it. That's where something like the stinky stuff that we've been using is really, really good, because it's a sort of an attractant, so it holds the fish in the area. Bam, out goes another catapult worth. But yeah, balanced, lightweight, and get on it, guys. As I said, if the sun stays up, next week we'll do a zig special as well, and then back to the DIY special. But obviously leave your comments underneath here, and we'll have a chat later and see you next week. Team Catch Release, Angling Gazette, Carp Shed.